So in today's video, I'll be discussing the top 3 players that the New York Knicks should consider signing in the 2021 NBA offseason. But as always, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and hit that notification bell button not to miss out on more awesome NBA content like this. But now with that out of the way, let's get into the video. So the first 2021 NBA free agent target for the New York Knicks is Lonzo Ball. So Lonzo Ball is definitely one of the better players in this free agency class. And I think I could definitely say that he's the best passer in this free agency class as well. And the New York Knicks are projected to have around $50 million in cap space this offseason. And I'm pretty sure that Lonzo Ball is the best bet for the New York Knicks in this 2021 offseason. So Lonzo Ball has been having a career year with the New Orleans Pelicans this year and is improving every season. And currently Lonzo Ball is averaging 15 points per game, 6 assists, and 4.5 rebounds per game, as well as 1.5 steals per game, while shooting career highs from the field, which is at 42.5%, and beyond the arc, which is about 38.5%. I think we can already say that Lonzo Ball is an all-around NBA player and plays the game at an elite level. And yet he's only 23 years old and will continue improving every season. So he's a rebounding guard that can distribute the ball at a high level while also developing into an efficient all-around three-point shooter and a solid defensive player. And so I believe that he'll be the perfect fit for the New York Knicks on the court, especially with Tom Thibodeau's style of play. And the Knicks' biggest need on the court is the point guard position, since they currently have Elfrid Payton and Derrick Rose in that position, as well as Emmanuel Quickley, but I wouldn't call him a point guard. I would kind of call him like a combo guard instead. And Elfrid Payton is definitely not as good as a shooter as Lonzo Ball, and not as good as a passer as Lonzo Ball as well. And of course, Knicks fans know that he could sometimes have just tunnel vision passes and does not see the full court in general. And Lonzo would be that facilitator that the Knicks truly need the most. And I actually believe that he could be the long-term point guard solution for the New York Knicks moving on, because he easily fits the Knicks timeline, and he would grow with Knicks players such as RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, Julius Randle as well. And I also believe that Lonzo Ball would be able to unlock Obi Toppin's and Mitchell Robinson's true potential in the long-term future. So the Knicks might as well take a chance on a player like that. And I think that he can actually also develop into a triple-double type of threat every night. But now comes the money side of this potential deal. And before I get into the money side, just imagine a team of Lonzo Ball, a shooting guard like a Bradley Beal that I have made a blockbuster mock trade video for him, a small forward with RJ Barrett, and a power forward with Julius Randle, as well as a center like a Mitchell Robinson. I feel like that would be one of the best fits on the Knicks in terms of a team perspective. And the Knicks would definitely have enough cap space to be able to have a player like a Lonzo Ball and a Bradley Beal as well. And I think that that would be the most fun NBA team to watch in the entire league. And if the Knicks were to actually trade for Bradley Beal, they'd probably have to give up players like Emmanuel Quickley, Kevin Knox, Frank Ntilikina, as well as 3 to 4 first-round picks. But they could have a bench team with Derrick Rose, Alec Burks, Reggie Bullock, Obi Toppin, and Nerlens Noel off the bench. And that team would be a serious playoff team in the East. And I can maybe use the word championships if the Knicks already develop a long-term chemistry with that type of team for at least 2 to 3 years. But in terms of the money with Lonzo Ball, he's probably gonna have to get paid upwards of $20 million a year per reports, which could be a bit too expensive. But I think that the Knicks, since they do have that much cap space, to use it on a guy like Lonzo Ball would probably be the smartest idea for them. Now with all that said, let's hop into player number 2. So the second free agent that would be a good idea for the New York Knicks to target would be Dennis Schroder. So the Knicks are also reportedly having interest in Dennis Schroder and are going to pursue him in the 2021 NBA offseason. So unlike Lonzo Ball, Dennis Schroder will be an unrestricted free agent this year. And it looks like there is a real possibility that Dennis Schroder might leave the Lakers after this offseason. because he surprisingly declined a 4-year, $84 million contract from the Los Angeles Lakers. And in his first year with the Los Angeles Lakers, being 27 years old, he's actually had a very good year so far, as he's currently averaging 15.5 points per game, 5 assists per game, and 4 rebounds per game, while also contributing on the defensive side of the court by adding in 1.5 steals per game, while also shooting 43% from the field and 34% from 3. And similarly to Lonzo Ball, Dennis Schroder is also a pretty good passer and a very good rebounder for a point guard. He would also help out Julius Randle with facilitating the ball as well. But the reason that I would take Lonzo Ball instead of Dennis Schroder is because of Lonzo Ball's shooting improvement. As I've said earlier, Schroder is shooting 34% from 3, which I believe is a bit beyond average for a player like a point guard like Schroder. But in contrast, Lonzo Ball is shooting about 38.5% from 3, which actually is much better than that. And the main reason I would not take Schroder is because of the price tag that he would take. Since he turned down that 4-year, $84 million contract from the Los Angeles Lakers, he's probably going to want something close or actually more than that even, which I definitely find as something the Knicks should definitely not even consider doing. And unless Dennis Schroder wants a 1-year, $25 million deal or so, I'm not willing to offer him a long-term contract worth over $20+ million. But again, it probably all depends on how he performs in the playoffs with the Los Angeles Lakers and if he's actually the third player on the team and the real third main option on the team. But until he shows that he's a consistent three-point shooter and shooter in general, that's when I'd be willing to give him a long-term type of contract. But if the Lonzo Ball plan is not going to work for the Knicks this offseason, let's say he's going to sign with the Chicago Bulls or some team like that, then I would consider offering Dennis Schroder a big 1-year contract. So Lonzo Ball and Dennis Schroder are probably the most likely options for the Knicks, especially Lonzo Ball, and they're probably the most realistic options. But the third player that I'll be talking about is probably going to be the least likely option for the Knicks. But without further ado, let's hop into player number 3. So the third and probably the most unlikely player that the Knicks should try to target in the 2021 free agency is Chris Paul. So Chris Paul will have a player option this offseason. But the reason that I say he's highly unlikely to leave the Phoenix Suns is because of their outstanding performance as the number 2 seed in the Western Conference. But if he was to go somewhere else than the Phoenix Suns, it would probably only be a championship contending team. But if you look at a team like the Phoenix Suns, their style of play has drastically changed from last season to this season, obviously because of the acquisition of Chris Paul. Even at age 35 years old, Chris Paul is a franchise-changing player. He's basically a point guard, but maybe if he actually would want to somehow leave the Phoenix Suns, it would maybe be able to be a big team like the New York Knicks and a popular team like the Knicks. And the Knicks definitely look like a playoff team this season with the hard way that they're competing. But with someone like Worldwide Wes on the Knicks front office, he obviously knows Chris Paul very well with his connections and would probably be backpaging for recruiting for Chris Paul. But the Knicks would probably not be able to land Chris Paul without making a blockbuster trade for a superstar. But if the Knicks would actually trade for a player like a Bradley Beal, that's when I would actually believe that a Chris Paul signing could be on its way. I mean, before getting traded to the Phoenix Suns, Chris Paul was definitely interested in a trade with the New York Knicks, mostly because he loves playing in the Garden, especially when there are fans there. But the reason that he was a little bit less interested in going to the Knicks last offseason was for the reason that the fans are not allowed at the Garden. But imagine a team of Chris Paul and Bradley Beal in the backcourt, as well as RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson. I mean, that would actually be a championship contending team. But let me know in the comments down below, which player do you guys think the Knicks should target in the 2021 NBA free agency? So if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you're new. It was KNYT here and I'm out. Peace.